Sure.
All right, Steelers lose 17-14. But this felt like a much bigger game. This felt like this wasn't just a loss. This felt personal and hurtful, and I don't know. People are going nuts over this game. How you doing, Darren?
Good, Joe. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's the Patriots, and no matter whether Brady's on the team or gone, at least for a while, it's still going to be the Patriots. Outside of Cleveland, Baltimore, and Cincinnati, they're the most hated. They made me more hated than Cincinnati and Cleveland, really. Yeah, and it's early in the season. That's a really good point. For game 2, people are really intense. A lot of things like, well, it's just game 2. Well, they've had a lot going on in just 2 weeks. So we've got a quarterback controversy. We got a line that's up and down, some good, some bad. TJ Watt's out. People miss Hayden. So it's tough.
Well, let's talk about TJ Watt, because the way that the defense changed from 1 week to another since because TJ Watt wasn't in there, it's like night and day. My goodness. Not that the defense was bad, but they were unbelievably dominant and awesome against Cincinnati. And now against New England, they were just there. There were no splash plays except for Minka's interception.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, TJ Watt is just so impactful. He's one of those rare guys that when he's in the game, he changes everything. It goes right in there with like the Reggie Whites and Lawrence Taylors and Mike Singletary's of the world. He's that good. And that's really a short list. I'm not going to go, Troy Polamalu, obviously, if we're not being too much homer. Those are game-changing guys. Ed Reed. You plan offenses around guys like that. And when that guy's not in the game, the impact's there. And I like Highsmith a lot. I think he's a great linebacker, but he's just not the same caliber. And, they kept switching him yesterday from inside to outside and almost like trying to figure out what's the best combination to replace it, where TJ, you just let him buckle up and go in and just raise hell and create chaos. So, all those Browns fans and Baltimore fans in particular, they always want to say, well, he can't stop the run. Well, he definitely stopped the run in Cincinnati. He crushed Joe Mixon a few times for a loss and tackle. He's a complete player. He's not just a pass rusher. And when you lose a complete player like that, it has a big impact.
Yeah. It seems like the formula they're trying to use is the one they had in 2019 when Ben was hurt for the year, and they basically said, okay, let's win this with defense and a conservative offense and not taking any chances and just hope that the defense is good enough and we just score enough. And okay, that could work if you had TJ, but now he's out. So your margin of error is tiny to non-existent. And when you have things like Cam Sutton dropping an interception, the Gunnar Olszewski fumble of the punt return, and there was a third thing. You have these things. You have to be perfect. And when you make mistakes, the Mitch interception, maybe there were other things, but you can't have mistakes, and it's just such a scary way to try to win games. It's just scary.
And it came out, it's really different. The Steelers played almost the entire game with an extra defensive back in that formation. And that was it was Levi Wallace that got the benefit of that. He was on the field 59 out of a possible 68 snaps, and that was he didn't do too bad. But still, you're asking a lot of some of these younger guys, and that's just the ripple effect or domino effect, if you will, when you lose a guy like TJ Watt. Now you're changing a defensive scheme too. And that really, and I think the thing that's probably concerning to a lot of Steel fans is, and this isn't, trying to crap on the Patriots. That's not a good Patriots team. I mean, it's okay.
Not at all.
But they're not good. They're not what they used to be. Belichick or no Belichick. Obviously he coached well yesterday. But when you have a team, even by Belichick standards, he can coach well, even with a bad team. And yesterday, I think he got the best of these guys. And that was a winnable game. We technically could be 2-0, but just finding that way to win. And I think obviously a lot of that falls on a quarterback controversy. And that's just something you don't want to have in week 2. People are calling for firing, Matt Canada. I mean, I can't say people are wrong. I don't think the Steelers are going to do that. I think people they see the news like Scott Frost got canned a few weeks ago. His defensive coordinator got canned yesterday afternoon from Nebraska after giving up how many points they gave to Oklahoma. And people start thinking, oh, well, and Herm Edwards got canned. And everyone's like, oh, well, we can just start firing people. Look, the Steelers haven't just started firing people ever. That's something the Jets do, the Colts do, the Houston Texans do. It's not the Steeler way. Unless some huge pressure or some unforeseeable thing, I don't see Matt Canada going anywhere soon. But if you are going to make a switch at quarterback, this could be the time to do it. And, obviously you heard the fans, Kenny. And I mean, it was, Mitch heard that. He heard it. You can't say
Tomlin didn't somehow. They asked him about it. It's like, did you hear the case? He's like, no, I didn't hear that. Like, buddy, you need your hearing checked then because we all heard it.
Yeah. I mean, you heard it in that preseason game. It was insane. He knows. And I guess that's some of the things with Mike Tomlin frustrates people too, is he is not a hypocrite, but it can come off hypocritical. And like, he talked about George Pickens having elite freak talent. Well, are you going to throw the ball to him? I mean, if he has that elite, because really Tomlin's usually reserved with rookies. That's probably the most I've ever heard him say about a rookie, other maybe Najee Harris in years. So for him to say that, he knows it, and I think that's where people get the disconnect. Well, somebody throw the ball, chuck it up the middle for the love of God. I mean, it was just, how many of those plays were bad off to the left side of the ball? So, I don't know. There's frustration and there's a lot of it.
That's the thing. That's the big thing from this game is it Mitch or is it Matt Canada? And
right.
It seems to be, it's never one thing or the other. It's usually a little bit of both, but Mitch, he got to take a lot of blame for this. When you say, well, why Matt Canada won't let him throw him in the middle of the field, he probably does, but Mitch is making that choice not to. Maybe it's Mitch making the choice not to take chances. I don't know, but
yeah, and that's the other thing too. What would kind of alarm me was the players were kind of taking shots at Mitch a little bit or whoever, and it's week 2. You hear this stuff like week 10, week 14, when it's like end of the season. You know what? I don't have practice with these guys anymore. I'm just going to say and speak my mind. You had guys, over yesterday, you know, Chase Claypool, you had a lot of guys speaking their mind yesterday after that game. I think Mark Caballi, almost all the reporters that cover the beat said that locker room was a little steamed and, a little jovial, a little mixed, but definitely an awkward locker room for week 2. And you have a short week. So that's the other thing. It's tough right now for us as fans. For them, you want to make a switch when you have 3 days to prepare for a decent Browns team, right? I mean, it's not the same old Browns. These Browns are very capable of beating the Steelers. Used to be this is just an easy win, pass it off and go. So now you want to throw Kenny into the fire with this. I don't know. Maybe the best thing is having an extra week to prepare. The smart thing is if you're going to insert Kenny, maybe we insert Kenny in the next coming game and try to stick with it against Cleveland.
And that might be a good idea because you're right. Putting Kenny in with on 2-3 days rest, that's ridiculous. But after that, you have a week and a half of rest.
Right.
That's a perfect time to put to get Kenny ready. So
right. But it's like, how it is. I mean, if he comes in right now and he lights it up, I mean, there's no way you can put him back, put on the bench.
Right.
Like Pitt's going through that right now. I mean, you had Yarnell, you had Slovis. I mean, Penn State's kind of going through the same thing. Sean Clifford's been good, but now they put Drew Aller in, who's like, one of the top quarterbacks in the country coming to Penn State, and the fans go nuts when he goes in. And so you have quarterback controversy is the worst controversy, I think, as a coach to have, because the tremendous amount of pressure from media will put it on you. The fans definitely got to put it on you. So yeah, I don't know. And this short week is not favorable for Tomlin and the Steelers.
We don't know what the plan is. We don't know what's, what they wanted to do. We all figured that the offense would struggle at first. So this shouldn't be a surprise. But I think I think this next game against Cleveland is basically the defining game of Mitch Trubisky's career, whether he wants to be a starting quarterback or not. Because this is it. This is it. If he has another bad game, how can you stick with him?
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
You got to make a change.
I totally agree. And that's a really good point. I mean, if he goes out there and chokes up against Cleveland, fans are going to want him gone. He doesn't have a choice. And, and there's been other guys even too, like Trey Essex. I thought he made a good point today on his social media, his Twitter. He was talking about how, the line was actually not that bad. They were there and, that was kind of Najee and Mitch decided to bump out, and run these little hook patterns. And when the line actually blocked fairly well, that's why I put on Twitter earlier today that, I think the Bengals offensive line is in a worse place than the Steelers offensive line right now. Do we have the best offensive line in the NFL? No, but it's getting a little better. And they got to figure out a way to get Najee free a little bit. And, Mitch has just been off with some of his passes. He seems like the only comfortable pass he is having that wide angle route where you have Deontay go far, start off in the right slot or the right end and go all the way to left. He must have hit that play 15 times yesterday or 12 times. And that's okay. It'll work a little bit, but teams are going to figure it out. And they started putting 8 and 9 in the box. And yeah, we had nothing. And there were a couple times where Deontay was wide open yesterday. Claypool's wide open. And I'm not trying to put this all on Mitch, but I don't think Mitch and Canada are on the same page. And I don't think it's not working right now. It's definitely not working.
It's not. And another thing that's not working is Mitch is supposed to be athletic. He's supposed to be able to run a little bit. He doesn't run at all.
No.
It's just, yeah, it's just not. And then, yeah, the offensive line wasn't that bad. And like, I know, I think there was one play that Trey Essex was like screaming about where like the offensive line opened up this huge hole in the middle and Najee chooses to go to the outside.
Yeah, it bumps to the left.
So
yeah,
that's extremely frustrating. It's like,
yep.
Man, nobody's in sync right now. Another thing I kept hearing today, and it's just it's funny and silly, but they're talking about last year and how basically the Steelers offense with Ben was do nothing most of the game, but then like at the end of the half or something, or they'd run a 2-minute drill or something like that, basically where Ben got to call his own plays. That's when they would actually be moving and stuff, because Ben said, screw this Matt Canada crap. So, and obviously Mitch Trubisky does not have the freedom to do stuff like that, but still, I don't know.
I think, I know we get called Yinzers and stuff like that, but I think Pittsburgh football fans in particular, whether it's Pitt, the Steelers, are fairly intelligent about the game, right? And they can look at this game and they can see that the defense played well enough to win yesterday. They surely played well enough to get the win 2 weeks ago. And you look at Harvin. Harvin's been great. I mean, he's doing what they drafted him to do. Put the opposing teams in bad field position. He's been booming these punts. I mean, just sticking them. I mean, anything you could possibly want, he's doing. Massive improvement over last year. So you're getting special teams. Boz has been great. Downfield tackling has been great. Now you had the muff punt there yesterday, so that's a check mark against you. But special teams, good enough to win. Defense, good enough to win. Guess what? It comes down to the offense, and right now there's not good enough to win.
It's yeah. And then now we face Cleveland, who I'm actually in shock how well they're playing. I figured I have zero respect for Jacoby Brissett, so I did not think much of what they were doing. But hey, they won their first game, and they should have won yesterday. Oh my goodness, what a collapse! They're going to be mad. They're going to be mad. First of all, they're playing the Steelers. They're going to be mad anyway. But to lose that way, Ooh, I don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
this is I'm not liking this game for the Steelers.
So where I live, a little north of you, up here, we get both the Ohio and the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania news channels, and I thought it was really funny that. So, and I didn't see this, and I didn't see it on Wake Up Football or anything else today too. But apparently, the Browns stadium there, they flashed after they went up 35-14, maybe, or 17. They flashed, this will be the first 2-0 start for the Browns since 1993, and the stadium went nuts. Well, then it all went downhill, which I thought that was phenomenal. I mean,
That's amazing.
yeah, they put that up on the scoreboard, and yeah, the crowd went nuts. Well, guess what? And yeah, I mean, the Jets, they give the Jets credit, but if you would have told me, hey, Bengals or Browns, who's going to be 0-2 or 2-0, I definitely would have picked the Bengals at this point and not the Browns. But Browns 1-1, the Bengals are 0-2, and yeah, you're right. Chubb's been playing great. The offensive line, their defensive line looks stout. They're going to give us a game Thursday.
It's going to be real interesting. It's going to be really interesting. Wow. It's going to be something. Yeah. The Bengals are I just had a feeling when I started watching that Bengals Cowboys game,
Yep.
and the Cowboys went up early. It's like, are the Cowboys going to win this? I don't know. And I called it. I said the Bengals were going to have a Super Bowl hangover. But still, I mean, they should have beat the Steelers. That was a fluke. Even with all those turnovers, they still almost won the game, and they would have won if it wasn't for the blocked extra point. So it's not like they're bad or something like that. But maybe they just maybe it's human nature. You see Cooper Rush, and it's like, oh, we got this in the bag. And
well, I mean, Dallas has a really good defense. I mean, Micah Parsons, arguably one of the top, maybe rookie of the year last year. Now you got to put him in the top 3 or 4 in the league.
He's their TJ Watt. He's basically on that level.
And again, that Bengals offensive line. I mean, I don't know how much of the game you saw yesterday. Burrow was running for his life all day long or all afternoon long. And the Steelers games. So anytime the Bengals are going to come up against a formidable defense, I think they're in trouble. I mean, their offensive line, I don't know what they're going to do. I know that they talked this morning in their media day about moving the line around. Well, that's great, but that's also something you really don't want to be doing once the season starts. That's what the preseason's for, even though you only get 3 games to do it now. But yeah, their offensive line may be one of the worst in the NFL right now.
They spent a lot of money to fix their offensive line.
5 new starters. Well, five new guys and basically a new combination. So
yeah. And so far it's a complete disaster. So, I mean, Steelers did something similar, and it's so far as a disaster, but it's getting a little bit better. But oh boy, that was a big thing. Is like, well, we have to protect Joe Burrow. Well, you're doing a lousy job.
Right.
Wow. Right. And yeah, you said, basically 5 new starters or 5 new, whatever combinations, but they hardly played together in the preseason and training camp. It's like, hey, here's a stupid idea. Why don't you get these guys together so they can learn from each other?
Yeah, right.
That was weird.
Right. But I know, you see why they have gunshot. I mean, the Browns lost both their starting centers in a preseason for the year. So they're going with their third guy. I don't even know the guy's name. I can't think of it off the top of my head. So, I think the Steelers can definitely keep it close. I don't think the Browns are going to come walk all over us, but that they are going to have to be ready to stop the run, which that scares me with Devin Bush. I just don't know about Devin Bush. I think he's bye-bye after this year. Some of the other linebackers have made it up for it. Miles Jackson making some good tackles. Highsmith made some great tackles yesterday. But yeah, man, it's going to be a doozy, and really it's going to come down. I think the defense can keep them in check. It's going to be whether the offense can overcome. And oof. I don't know, if you had to predict that game right now, what would you predict?
I would predict I don't even know. I think the line is, I don't even know what the line is. I think it's maybe Cleveland by 3 or something like that.
I thought it was like Cleveland 2.5, maybe.
I would say,
yeah,
I Cleveland by 3 sounds about right. I could see that happening. Yeah, I mean, just from sheer desperation and just what happened last week. But yeah, I really think this is the defining game of Mitch Trubisky's life. He's like, you better not screw up again, dude, because This is it. This might be it. We might be looking at Kenny in game 4.
Well, and that's true. And the stats just aren't helpful to him. I mean, 71 passes in a Steelers uniform, and I think only 10 of those 71 passes have been for over 20 yards. And I think the other thing we tend to, or people aren't talking about, is how bad is Najee's injury. It seems like, he started off in the game yesterday, and now we're seeing Warren, which Warren's a nice surprise. But how bad is that Najee Harris injury? And that's where pass blocking, I think we've been actually fairly efficient these first 2 games. But run blocking is where we have some, gaps to fill there, no pun intended. But yeah, I mean, it is. I agree with you totally. I think it's a great call about Mitch. I mean, it let him go with it, because I don't know about throwing Kenny to the fire in a conference game. And right now, this conference, every game is important because we're all pretty much even.
Right.
And the AFC East we're in first place, which is just
Crazy.
unbelievable. But if you can pull out a win against Cleveland this Thursday, then yeah, you make a little bit of room. I still,
Huge.
unless Mitch goes nuts and runs one in and throws 5, I'm still probably tending to, I think it's time for Kenny. But again, like you said, who is it? Right. I mean, if Kenny goes in and he's just chucking things to the side and outlet passes, and when it's 3rd and 19, you're doing a 5-yard toss to Pickett or Pickens, then and that's Kenny Pickett, a quarterback, then it's Matt Canada. But
Is
that's
it
going to be
Matt
tough.
Canada or is it Tomlin? Because like I
Right.
started this saying, we're going to try to win with defense and not making mistakes. What if he's saying to them, whatever you do, you just better not make a mistake. You better not throw an interception. You better not fumble. You better not make a mistake. And what if they have that in their heads? Like, oh my bad, I better not take any chances then, because and not even try to throw it. So that could be it too. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you and I go back and forth on how we feel about Tomlin. I mean, I don't dislike him. I feel I wish they would have won more by now under his leadership. But strangely enough, how much is it Tomlin's fault? I don't know how much these 2 losses are his, other than offensive line development. I thought in that 7th round or 6th round they could have grabbed that kid that the Bears got, and he's doing well. And they drafted another quarterback. Who got cut and didn't even make the squad. So I think there's a little bit there, but I think really a lot of blame comes down to who to blame. Is it Trubisky? Is it Canada? Whoever it is, they have about 3 days to figure that out before they strap it on Thursday. And couldn't be like the Jets this week, or couldn't be the Colts. No, we have to have the Browns. So it's a big game, and I think it could be a defining game for them this right now.
Huge. Yeah, it's very early in the season. I think one thing you could definitely criticize Tomlin about is that when they had a chance to get offensive linemen early, they chose to get running backs and quarterbacks and wide receivers and stuff like that. And that's all nice and sexy and stuff. But if you have nobody, defending, if you have no offensive line, it doesn't matter who you have. So, you could, I think that's valid. That, whoever was involved in picking those draft picks, that's a decision they made, and okay, you're going to have to live with it then. But yeah,
but I think that's what frustrates people too, is like, you look at that with Najee and 3 solid receivers. I think Chase is showing he's having a better year than he did already last year. A great tight end, Pat Freiermuth has been phenomenal. People love him. He's the kind of guy you want in there. Warren coming up out of nowhere. Steeler fans, we Yinzers, we love that kind of stuff. Unknown out of nowhere, coming up and how he's getting snaps, and they seem to love him. But with all these weapons, you need to start utilizing him. And I think that's the ultimate thing, is we're just not doing it. We're not throwing downfield. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough to throw Kenny into the fire. Although I know a lot of people are just like, throw him in there. Well, if you throw Kenny in, are there chances he may connect in or stand in the pocket longer to make those downfield passes? Absolutely. But you're giving him 3 days to prepare for one of the better defenses in the NFL. I think you're just throwing a kid under the bus.
And then week 4 is against the Jets. That's like,
Yeah.
That's a perfect. That's like starting a video game on easy difficulty. I
Right.
think at home against the Jets.
Yeah. With a
Perfect.
stack lineup of 90 or higher rated guys,
Right, right.
Yeah.
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 And then
So
and then next week is at the Bills. So let's put it on like the hardest difficulties. But
right. Yeah, exactly. I couldn't believe tonight. So I told you about getting the news. So we also get the Buffalo Bills coverage up here. And since we moved up here, we used to live in Moon and we moved up here a little bit further north now. They took school off today in Buffalo. The business is closed early. And I'm thinking it's week 2. I mean, it's a good matchup against the Titans. I know it's a 7:15 game. They
what
probably
are
kick
we
off.
doing?
What are you
What are
doing?
we doing? Taking school off for because of games on a Monday?
Yeah.
Come
And
on.
it's so I just thought that was kind of funny.
Kids these days.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we never got school off even when the Steelers were,
You know what?
no,
It's not the kids, it's the teacher, it's the adults. The adults wanted the day off, and so they
right.
just try to make it because it's for the children. Like, no. You're hungover, dude. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me, it was 2 years ago. I think Penn State was playing Maryland, and Maryland closed classes for the day to get students to go to the game.
Oh
And then,
God.
and then there's like, I think that stadium's right around like 35, 40,000, and it's like totally a whiteout. Penn State visiting fans, and
It's
they
such
lost
an
like
easy travel
62 to
thing.
nothing to Penn State. And you closed classes down for the day. You shut traffic down for this. I mean, yeah, that's just a little nuts. So, but speaking of nuts, I mean, that's what you have right now. I don't know. It's been a long time since Steeler fans weren't sure who to blame. It's always, it's this sucks or that sucks. And it's really, we could sit here for 2 hours on this podcast and bring in everybody you want and probably go back and forth. Is it Mitch or is it Matt Canada? But those are the two guys right now that's what it's about. Nobody can say, well, Claypool's awful and Frymuth's dropping passes and Boswell's missing kicks. Harvin's punts stink. The defense is not driving. All those things I just mentioned are all going pretty well. With the exception of muff punt, everything's clicking except one big thing. And we have the right cogs to make it click, and it's not working. So that's where it just comes down to who's going to be changed. It's too bad right now that not one of these. So something's going to happen. And I tend to think it's going to be the quarterback because I just don't see the Steelers.
They're just not going to get rid of Canada, not during the season.
No.
But I still have my doubts whether he is actually a competent NFL offensive coordinator, because it's been 2 years now and he's actually been there a little bit longer than that. I'm still not convinced that he's actually, that his scheme is actually good enough. So we'll see.
That's a great point, Joe, because last year we heard, well, Ben's slow. Ben doesn't have the arm. He's achy. He doesn't move like he used to. So, we give Matt Canada a pass. Well, honestly, we wish Ben in here a couple times, because I guarantee you, at least I'm pretty darn sure, we beat New England yesterday when Ben's in there. And I think we don't even go to overtime. We beat Cincinnati if Ben's in there. So
yeah.
That's just my feeling on that. And that's not like I'm, running around waving the number 7 flag. I think that's the deal. And I think that's what a lot of people feel. Kenny has a similar game. And that's why, and of course he's a pick guy, so that's all mounting there. And yeah, the cheers are only going to get louder. So that's one thing. If you don't put them in, okay. But those cheers and chants are only going to get louder, longer.
I wonder when Tomlin said, I didn't hear the Kenny chants, maybe that's just going to motivate the crowd to cheer for his name.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he couldn't have said anything worse, because now it's going to be, there'll be guys with bullhorns in there if they have to.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe giant signs.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be like Monday Night Raw during the Attitude Area.
That's right.
Pink, neon green and everything. So those were fun, but I always used to, if you sat low, you couldn't even see because of the signs. People just had those signs up in those years. It kind of sucks sometimes, when you
I was too busy holding up my own sign to worry about everybody else's sign. So it was, oh man, just craziness that 20,000 people each had a sign. I remember I had a sign that said "Goldust is my mom." That was That was my sign. And very, very not nice things about Bret Hart's and go back to Canada and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a
Yeah.
crazy time.
There's a guy beside me. It was a few weeks or after The Rock and Booker T went back and forth, and he said that Booker T 2 + 2 equals Thomas Jefferson,
Oh geez.
because he made that,
Oh
the short bus pulls up. But yeah, no, yeah, just getting back on track with the Steelers. It's in the same vein, guys like us who, also are in the sports media. This is, it's what's good for a business too, because it really gives you something to talk about. I'm really interested to see how Thursday goes. And I'm also interested to see, especially if it's like this, which I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be another either close win or close loss. It's not a blowout. What's the aftermath? Because that's going to be the interesting week. That's
yeah.
going to be,
Because then after that, we have a week and a half to just here. I mean, we only have a couple days and we're going crazy. We have a week and a half to just let everything fester. Oh boy.
Right. Right. So, yeah. And then I'm interested to see how Najee does. Obviously he's got to be able to look at that. I would think he's looking at game tape saying, man, if I would have cut in between the tackle here, if I would just cut up,
Right.
And he didn't have a horrible game. He definitely had a better game than he did against the Bengals. So hopefully there's a steady improvement there too. But yeah, I mean, Mitch wasn't even getting him the ball as much as any of us would have liked. So,
yeah. All right, sir. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Let's see. No matter what, we're going to have something to talk about.
Definitely, Joe. Thanks for having me on. I always appreciate you and appreciate the everything that you do. I think Pittsburgh loves you. You're my favorite guy on Twitter for sure.
Aww.
And yeah, man, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure being on with you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Joe.
See you.